Welcome everybody. I just wanted to make this quick video for you. I did promise everybody who attended Uplift's education at Masello on Monday a quick tutorial as a finishing touch on how to edit the photo that I taught you how to capture. So without further ado, let's dive right in here. And first things first, and I know I mentioned this during the class, but when you are shooting in RAW, you're picking up every piece of data that the camera can possibly pick up. You're getting the most information on that file. So with that being said, you absolutely need some kind of a software, an editing software, such as Adobe Lightroom or Adobe Photoshop. And those applications will be able to read the photo and you'll be able to put your finishing touches on that image so that you can get the desired look that you want and you can send it out and it can be viewed by now you're following. And don't worry if you don't really want to pay for a monthly membership for Adobe, that's completely fine. They do have free applications that will pick up the raw file as well. The only thing about the free applications is that you are not going to be there's certain features that the full version will have that one will not. But in this scenario, there's only a couple things that I'm going to be showing you that are really the important pieces, and those things are available in the free applications. So without further ado, let's get right into this. Okay, so first things first, I'm looking at this image right now, and the first thing that it's telling me, just from looking at it, is that it's quite underexposed. It's pretty dark. So the very first thing that I always focus on when going into an edit is this section right here, the light, okay? Because that's going to be your base. Before I touch color or anything like that, I'm going to hit the light first. I always want to make sure that I do that because it's going to give us a nice base to work from, and you can actually see what you're doing. You can also see where you need to add color later. So let's go right into this. And I do want to say first off, just remember this, and this is one thing I've always kept in mind when I was editing photos. Just be sure to have fun with it, because in order to get a great edit, it's very subjective. It really has to do with the look that you're trying to achieve, and it really is a form of art. So keep that in mind, but always try to find a balance. That is the whole technique of editing, and that's how to master editing, is to find a balance. So you never want to push something way over, or you never want to, bring something way down. You always want to find a balance in order to make the photo look as natural as possible. So let's get right into this here. So the first thing I go for, let's check our exposure, okay? That's the very first thing. So it is very dark. So I am going to bring it up, but not too much, because you're going to see right here, if you pump up the exposure, you don't want to bring it up all the way because it's going to overexpose the image. This is up all the way. So what we want to do, we're going to stop back down at 0 again, and we're going to bring it up just a tad. Let's see, maybe like a 1 point, I would say right there, 1.6. So we'll keep the exposure at about 1.6 because now you can virtually see pretty much everything. So now that we got our exposure, let's just play around. I want you to go through every single one of these, okay, and make the changes necessary. But I'm going to show you how I do it, and we're gonna just go right down the line here. So we're going to go to contrast. I don't like to pump up my contrast too much. A lot of people do like to pump up their contrast. I don't, because my main focus is to soften the skin and to soften the image. I don't like the image to be too defined, especially when I'm working with a person, especially when I'm doing headshots. Okay, so what I like to do, see, I'm going to bring it up just a bit, and it does start to look good when you bring it up, but this is the thing though. There is other techniques. People can go right to the contrast if you just want to spike up and define, for the definition, you want to spike up the definition a bit. But I like to actually bring it down to soften the image but not too much. So I'll bring it down to about -5. Okay, and you can see it now. It's softening up the image, right? Softening up the skin. It's giving a nice little haze here. Now I'll go to, I'm not going to hit my highlights just yet. I'm going to go to my shadows. We are going to bring down the shadows, okay? I like to bring down my shadows. That makes it much more natural, okay? And it doesn't necessarily define every single line, which I like because that's actually a little bit more natural to the human eye. So we'll bring it down to about -24, okay? We'll hit our whites, and you can see what it's affecting when you hit the whites. It's just going to make your subject pop, whatever the light is really touching. Okay, not too much, because if you bring it up, see this right here? You bring up the whites way too much, it starts to show like this really nasty looking area. It starts to show all the imperfections of the photo, so you don't want to do that. It also makes your photo way more overexposed, and you don't want that. It's not a good look. So I'm going to play around with the whites. I think I'm just going to bring it up to about +24, maybe bring up the exposure just a tad here. Okay, to match it. Wonderful. Okay, that's looking good. That's looking real good right now. So the last piece is the highlights and the blacks. So let's go into the highlights, right? Let's bring those up a bit. And if you want to show more detail, you can bring down the highlights and pump up your shadows a bit. But in this scenario, I want to, let's bring up the highlights, okay, to about 3. And now we're going to define the image. We're going to bring down our blacks. And this looks much more appealing than the contrast. But again, like I say, you don't want to bring it down too much. If you bring it up, this is what it does. But if you bring it down right here, now you have a nice defining image without having to sacrifice a look. It's still looking pretty natural. So you always want to just keep that in mind. Okay, now that we got our light situated, let's give this a little crop. We're going to take out a lot of this area right here. Okay. Boom. All right, now it's looking good. Now the next thing that I focus on, before I even add any color or anything like that, I want to check out the skin real quick, because obviously in a very important piece of a headshot, a large area that's being taken up is the skin. So you want to check real quick, because you are representing your customer or your client here, or your subject, and you want to keep in mind that if they have any imperfections, right, that could potentially make them feel insecure about themselves for no reason. They might have woken up that day with a bad pimple. You want to try and make sure you get rid of all of those little details, and it's going to help clean up the skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at see what we can fix over here. So I'm seeing, just because from the haircut, I'm seeing a couple stray hairs right over here, and also one right here. On the nose, I'm seeing some more stray hairs, but also he has some blemishes and pimples. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to this little Band-Aid icon. Once we're here, this is actually, it's called the Content Aware Remove Tool. So you want to zoom in for this. Okay, so you're making sure that you're getting the correct, you're not leaving any, artifacts or anything like that. So we'll go right in here, and we'll start off with the forehead. So we'll go to the Content Aware Remove Tool. Now you can change the size. You can either do it with a slider, or you can do it with the middle tab on a mouse. But I'm gonna bring it down, okay, so that the dead center is the thing that we want to remove. So let's get rid of this. Okay, you got a blemish right here. Okay, we're going to get rid of all of these. Okay. And one thing about this as well, you don't ever want to remove, a birthmark or a mole or something like that, or beauty mark, because that's a part of them that that is them every day. So we want to keep it as natural as possible. We're not going to remove anything about them. The only thing that we're going to remove are the things that are unwanted, like these hairs, okay? And, like little blemishes here and there, because the whole goal is to clean up the skin. Now, there's hairs on the nose here, right? Let's just clean it up. Let's just make them look good. And I know all of you are stylists, or you're, beauticians, or you're a barber. So the whole goal anyway for you is to make your client look good. So let's go back here. I'm going to bring it down again. Okay. Let's get rid of these hairs right here. Okay, boom. There we go. Done. Okay. Pimples. Done. Let's get these hairs. Okay. And a good rule of thumb, to avoid doing so much of this, because this can be pretty time consuming, is to make sure that, if they're wearing dark clothing, right, you want to brush roll them. You want to make sure that they, you do that before the shoot. It's just going to save you a lot of time in the editing. But obviously, there's going to be things that you can't control or do anything about, and that's going to have to be taken care of in post-production. But it's always a good rule of thumb to try and get all of that stuff off, like lint and things of that nature, prior to the shoot itself, because the camera will pick up on everything. Okay, so perfect. That's looking really, really good so far. Okay, and we got a couple little blemishes down here. Let's just take care of those real quick. And we didn't change anything about him. He's very 100% natural. We just took out all the things that they might pick at when the photo is being viewed. Mind you, if they're allowing you to share the photo, that's when you really want to focus on that. Okay. So now we've taken care of the light. The light base is looking pretty good. Okay, and we also took care of the imperfections on the skin. But now, there's another thing too that we can focus on, is the color, right? When it comes to portraits, I don't really like to oversaturate anything, so I don't really touch the vibrance of the saturation as much. If anything, it'll be a minor adjustment. So what I'll see what happens here if I bring up the vibrance, right? Now look at it. It's looking more of, it is definitely looking a lot more vibrant. The colors are starting to pop out a little bit more, but you don't necessarily want to do this in every situation. Sometimes it looks better when it's, undersaturated, but that's a look. That can be a look. But for this instance, we're going to keep it at about +8. And then also, when you are in Adobe, it's going to pick up the photo. It's white balance. It's going to pick up as it was shot. So this was shot at a color temperature of 5300 Kelvin. I actually like that. I think that it actually looks great fresh out of camera. If anything, I would probably warm it up a bit. It is looking really blue. And I would say just about right. Let's just do 4600. 4600 is looking pretty good. So 4625, I'm liking that. Okay, so now that I don't think you need to do any more with the color when it comes to the color temperatures or the vibrance. But one thing I will say is there is minor adjustments in, it's called selective color, okay? And this is taking, one individual color, and it's changing its hue, its saturation, and its luminance, which is the lighting of it, okay? How bright or how dark that color is. And this is a really important tool that I use on every single one of my edits, because when you think of the human anatomy, there is so many colors involved, but there's 3 key colors that are involved in every single person, especially on their skin. And those 3 colors are red, orange, and yellow. And you'll see those right here under the color mixer, right? Red, orange, and yellow. That is primarily the 3 colors that you want to use for a person's skin, okay? So let's see here. Orange and red are typically the most important colors. The skin typically has an orangey hue, and you always have red, because right under the skin, what do we have? We have blood. There is actual blood that we are focused on here. And the more healthy a person looks, the more blood is in their skin. You'll be able to see it. So he's looking pretty healthy. He has some red in his cheeks and on his forehead. But we don't want to make it too red so it looks like he has some kind of a skin problem. What we want to do is let's pump up. We could probably pump up that red in the luminance area, right? Boom, right there. And you can see right here it just changed a little bit, but now we're focusing, it's helping the skin pop out even more, which is much more appealing. Okay, so now we did the reds. I'm not going to touch the saturation of the hue because I think it looks fantastic as it is. So we're going to go into the orange real quick, and again I am going to bring up the luminance on the orange, and now you can see on the face, I'm going to bring it down, you can see exactly what's happening, right? You don't want to overblow it, so right there is looking pretty good. So at plus 16 on the luminance. Okay, saturation, I don't really want to touch the saturation. I hardly ever do. But let's see what it does, and you can see right there, boom. Right, actually, you know what? I think that if we bring up the saturation just a bit by plus 4, yeah, right there, he's now looking much more healthier, even though he already looked healthy to begin with. Okay, so on that end, I'm not going to change the hue on the oranges, and on the yellows, I really don't think there's much yellow in this photo, and if there is, it's going to be up over here on the right, and I can see that's really the highlights. The highlights are yellow here. We're gonna leave it. No, we're gonna bring it up just a tad by plus 5, and we can't touch saturation because it's not really picking up too much of the yellow hue. So now we have that. What are the other colors that we're seeing in this photo? What I'm seeing a lot of is I'm seeing a lot of blue. So we can make the blue pop as well and make it much more appealing. What I like to do is I like to bring up the light on the blue as well. So we'll bring up that light, right? Not too much, but you can see it's affecting the background, it's affecting the shirt, and it's affecting the jacket. Let's bring it up to about plus 9, right? And let's just bring up the blue just a tad, okay, to make that pop. That's looking good right there at about a plus 10. Okay, wonderful. So I'm not seeing any other colors here that you really need to focus on. So all the other colors, the greens, the turquoise, the purples, you might get some purples actually in the blue, but it's not going to be much. And if you do, it's going to be, here we go, it's a highlight. So we can bring that up just a tad too. Okay, so that's looking good. And everything else you don't really need to focus too much on. The next, so now we got the color out of the way. It's looking really good. We're going to go down here to the effects panel. Okay, and you can absolutely utilize these, okay, to make your image come out even better. In this scenario, I don't think we need really much. We can hit the texture because that's going to soften up the image. It's going to soften up the skin as well. So I would bring that down just a bit, right? Okay, and you can see what it's doing to the skin. I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring it all the way up, and now I'm going to bring it down, okay? You see what it's doing to the skin? It's making that skin look nice and soft, and that's the exact look that you want for a nice headshot portrait. Bring it down to about -5. And then you also have clarity. Clarity does the same thing in a way, but this will also define your edges. So we can bring up the clarity, right, in order to get a more defined edge. But I don't really like that look. If anything, we can bring it up a couple decimal points, like +3 here. And that's looking pretty good. The last and final thing, you can also use this dehaze as well. If you, by accident, you start off with a photo that looks like this, okay? You can actually dehaze that. It'll cut right through that haze, and it'll give you more sharpness to your photo. It'll encapsulate your subject even more. So I'm going to keep it, though. I really like the look that we created. If anything, let's bring it up +1 here. Just a tad. Okay, we don't want to go too hard on that. All right, and last but not least, this is one of my little tricks that I like to use, and some people don't use it correctly. But I guess at the end of the day, what is correct? Because art, this is a form of art. It is subjective, and this is really it has everything to do with the desired outlook that you're trying to come up with. So, with that being said, we're going to hit this with a vignette, right? And I'm going to show you exactly what a vignette does. You have two sides of a vignette, right? One can be if you want to add a dark circle around the subject, right? If you bring it down, it creates a dark circle. If you bring it up, it creates a white circle. Now, depending on the environment or the image itself, you can use this in order to make your subject really, really stand out. And if it's used correctly. So remember I told you everything about editing is about finding a balance. So right here, what we're going to do is I want to hit it with a dark vignette. So I'm going to bring it down, right? We're going to bring it to just about right there. Okay. Now you can see it up over here. You can see there's a dark circle around the subject. Now, this is the problem. You don't want to have that line here. See that big line? It is absolutely 100% unappealing, and it's very amateur-like. So what you want to do is you want to tone that down a bit, and you want to feather it out. Okay, you can see it. The line's starting to disappear. But now, here we go. Let's focus on the roundness real quick because we want to make sure it goes around the subject so that it's making the subject pop. We're going to hit the midpoint. Okay, so this is all the way in. All right, let's bring it out to about right there. And we're actually going to bring down the vignette just a bit. Okay, so what that does, it just simply makes whatever the subject is pop because it darkens up the edges. Okay, and now the image looks much more appealing, and it has a bit of character now. Okay, let me see. Right there looks pretty good. All right, so there you have it. This is a pretty good looking image already. I think that we got a win here. One last and final thing, if you see there is some evidence here, okay, there is some artifacts in the back here. You want to go to this noise reduction. I don't use this quite often. I try to get great exposure every time, but if in any case you get this kind of a grainy look, you could always go to your noise reduction panel and focus on your luminance and your color. So I'm going to bring up the luminance just a bit, and you can see what happens here. If I bring it all the way up, do you see that? It just like turns this image into butter, okay? But it's not appealing when you bring it all the way up. Just use it enough so that you get rid of the artifacts, okay? And that you don't start making your subject look poor. All right, guys, so there you have it. This is the completed image. There is so much more that you can do to this, but I just wanted you guys to really know how to get the basics down, okay, and get your base to work with so that you can really get creative here. Once you have the base down, you really have a jump start on getting on the creative process. So you can really go in and focus on all these other things like the color grading, whatever else these features are here. It gives you a nice start to do that. Okay, guys, so there it is. There is your completed edited photo of Mike, and I think that it's looking pretty good right now, and I think it is ready to go out. The last thing that you want to do in the very last piece of this puzzle is, now that you have the edited photo completed, you want to go up over here into File, and you want to hit Export. In this scenario, I'm going to include my watermark, which you can actually add a logo if you'd like. Okay, and then you would just want to go up here to Export. Okay, guys, and there you have it. I hope you learned a lot from this, and please feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. I can walk you through something step by step if you'd like. Just always remember to have fun with whatever it is that you're doing. That is what the creative process is all about. It's all about exploration. So have a great day, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks.